What's up, guys, and welcome to the second episode of The Hot Drop. This was a super interesting interview. I had a really long chat with Jeemzz about a lot of his times in Team Liquid, some of the Overpeekers drama, the gossip, the whole PGC stuff. Was all fantastic stuff. Then we talked a little bit about his perspectives for the next year. We talked about the next year for PUBG in general. And then we honestly had a lot of fun towards the end. He asked me some really uncomfortable questions. I gave a lot of really hard answers. And yeah, it was a great time. If you enjoy this kind of content, feel free to use my creator code. It's absolutely free. I don't really want people to give me money, but when it's free, I'll sell out for it all the way. And yeah, enjoy the episode. All right, welcome everybody to the second episode of the Hot Drop podcast. As you can already see, my guest this time is the fantastic Jeemzz. How are you doing, Jimbo?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice. We have a ton to talk about. I think the Batulans episode was almost an hour long, and I feel like we have even more to talk about. So I'm not gonna waste a whole lot of time. I wanna kick it off with PGC. Because you guys probably had one of the most interesting situations coming into PGC. You already decided you want to split up when that event's done, even though you qualify for it in PCS 7. There obviously must have been massive problems in the team if you qualify to PGC and you already say, well, this is the last time we're ever going to play together, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of problems and issues, and I don't think I didn't enjoy playing with Clib and Vard that much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did to begin with, but not towards the end. I was kind of, I don't know. I guess I was just getting more and more miserable or whatever you want to call it.
And you were still IGLing, right? I think there was a phase where Clib was calling, but then you went back to being the IGL.
Yeah. During that time, I was IGLing. I mean, Clib has always been a good secondary IGL. At least when I've been calling, he's still been helping. So it's not like he hasn't been calling.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, sort of that main last call was you.
Yeah, that was me. It's just been. It was just. I think I was just getting I don't know. I could definitely feel in my mood when we had practice and when we were playing tournament games that I just wasn't I wasn't very I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. I think it's just because I don't know. I felt like we had a lot of problems that we weren't able to solve, and during our last few months together, we really worked hard. We really practiced a lot. We were very creative with how we practiced. We put in a lot of hours and did a lot of stuff we thought would be good for the team, but it really just didn't show on the results, and a lot of our problems were just still there. So I really like the guys outside of the game, but we just didn't mesh that well in game. I think
it's not that easy. Now that sort of brings me to, I think, a question that a lot of people ask themselves now. The sort of the move away from having the same roster for a long time, to sort of the EB roster move, or I mean not the EB roster move after bringing on Clib, and bringing in Vard, and everyone was like, well, this on paper is insane, right? Vard wins so many 1v1s. He's one of the best mechanical players in the game. But it didn't really work out. I feel like it didn't really shift performance in one way or the other. Do you want to talk a little bit about why you made that move in the first place? Why you thought it was a good idea, and why it maybe didn't work so much?
Yeah, I think it all started with so the idea was basically at PGC 2021, when we had Vard as a sub, we were already back then talking about picking up Vard, but we didn't want to throw EB under the bus. So we were actually going to try Vard at PGC 2021. Try him out and swap him and EB a little bit just to test it out. But suddenly they made this rule that your subs couldn't play unless it was an emergency. And we got told that I think as we were traveling there, or as we already were there.
Oh, that's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like the reason we wanted to make a change was because like I don't know, sometimes it just feels like there is time for a change in a team, something new. But I think we also felt that EB was like losing more 1v1s than he should have been losing. So I think our mindset was like, let's pick up this like really good mechanical player. It's gonna make us a lot stronger fighting team. So that's basically like the thought process behind it. Because also like on top of that, our comms were pretty like hectic. Sometimes I'm very loud. EB is very loud. Believe it or not, Mexi can be pretty loud when playing tournaments. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
And
And
I don't
Val's
know,
really quiet.
Yeah, Vard is really quiet, so that's like it's like perfect. Like I really enjoy that part of that team. When we got Vard, I really liked our comms a lot more. So that was really nice, I think. And it's not like of course it didn't work with Vard, but there was definitely a lot of situations and moments that we did feel like a stronger team with Vard. Um,
I mean, you can never, if a team doesn't work, you can very rarely say it's because of that player or that roster move, right? It's just
like the team could have worked. It was just I think a lot of it was on me and Mexi's shoulder to make it work. Like take more responsibility in game and just make sure that stuff happens and which was a lot, to be honest. I felt like it was a lot. I had a really big role, I feel like, on that team. Which was like I think I really enjoy it, but it's something I'm gonna try to step away from on whatever team I land on next.
Yeah.
It's to like have of course I think I really want to have a clear like role on a team so I know what my job is, what to focus on, what to improve on. But I don't want to have too much to focus on because I did have like I had like notes, what do you call them, like sticky notes, and I have a notebook, and I just ended up with like multiple pages of stuff
like
to
notes about
focus
other
on in game.
teams or like about
No, like for my own sake, to help the team be better. I had notes like stuff to do in game. Like an example could be like one of my notes was like use Vard more for trading in fights. So that would mean like I would like tell Vard like I'm trading you or come with me, let's trade. And that's a good thing. But I just ended up with like so many of those that
and you need to pass some of them over. You can't have them all in your head ready and be the one responsible for all of them, right? That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Especially when you're at like the top level where every team is so strong and you gotta like function all the time. Now interesting question. If you would have had to guess from 1 to 32, you have to put all your money on one of the spots you end up in PGC in. What would you have guessed? If you just had to pick one spot, roughly, like coming into PGC 2022.
I think I would have guessed like somewhere between like probably like since 1, I will just say 8. 8 is like
I think that's a reasonable expectation as well. I feel like that's kind of how your play style used to end up a lot as well, where you have like you tend to have really good days and then really bad days, and a lot of the time if you're in, let's say, a best of 15, right, and you miss out on 5 games because you have a really bad day, you kind of end up on 7th or 8th, that sort of area. So I think a lot of people were surprised and didn't really expect you to get all the way up to 5th place. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. Like I'd say it's fair. I would also say that some people probably expect us to be 5th. Like there's definitely a mix of opinions. Because we do just play better on LAN. I mean, we have experience, and Vard is super good at LAN as well. Like he's like that's another thing, by the way. When it comes to players, like there are LAN players and there are not LAN players. Now I'm not saying that EB isn't a LAN player, but Vard is really good at LAN.
Yeah.
So that was another thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just nice to rely on that guy. I feel like it's mainly also it's in those close range situations, right, that you talked about, the trading sort of stuff where, you know, you have a guy with an AR next to you that just hits a whole lot of heads very, very consistently. It's just super nice to have that on a team.
Yeah.
It can sway so many situations.
Yeah, I have to say, just to add on it, like, if there was just like more LAN tournaments, like I saw this comment somewhere, like, isn't there a roadmap, blah blah blah, something 2 tournaments a year now, 2 LAN tournaments a year. Do you wish you would stay together now? And I was like, I mean, what he's saying makes sense, because we do play a lot better when we're like together on LAN. And I really enjoyed PGC tournament having VAR there. It was really nice to have on LAN, because he's very night and day, offline and online. Like, he's a completely different person, like playing with him online and playing with him on LAN. It was totally different.
That's interesting. That's cool. I feel like if you're picking up sort of less experienced players, you're always kind of taking that gamble, right? Like, how are they gonna do if we make LAN and stuff? So it's nice to have someone where, you know, they're gonna pop off. I thought that question, I saw that, and I thought in my mind, well, it's probably too late. Like, there's probably too many differences in the team already for you to stick together. But it's definitely a factor, and I feel like it's definitely a factor as well, especially with the more experienced teams, right? The sort of older rosters that have stuck together for a long time, maybe even, you know, like some of the PL players and all that stuff who are just so used to playing on LAN, they're just not shook at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's how I feel. Like, I can. So people always ask me like, "Oh, are you nervous when you play and stuff?" And I'm like, "Not really." But one thing I know for sure is that when I play online, I am more nervous than when I play offline. Like, I had this, like, we're talking about this the other day, because I've been scrimming with Heroic. Talking T-Bone and Beamy and Corexy about it, and T-Bone says the same thing. It's like, you just feel like you're gonna shit on everyone when you're on LAN. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, like, I don't know. I take a moment. I like look across the room, and I see all these fucking nerds, and I'm just like, I'm gonna fucking stomp them.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting T-Bone and VAR and those guys at PNC, and it's like, you could just tell they were so chill. They were just there to have a good time. You know, they talked a little bit about the games, but they were just mainly there, just chilling. We know what to do tomorrow. We're gonna own these kids, and it just didn't matter. And that's just so big. I feel like, especially in PUBG, maybe it's the same in other esports, and I just don't know it as much. But sort of mentality and the vibe you bring into the games is just so big.
Yeah, we kind of went with a more chill approach as well. To at least I did personally for PGC 2022. I just I don't know. I guess I prepared a little bit less, and I was trying to just have a little bit more like chill tournament, because like it's our last tournament. Like it's not very much I can do that's gonna like.
Yeah. It's also, that was something that I really thought about quite a bit, because some people were like everyone was talking about it. You guys said, all right, we're splitting up, but we're still playing PGC. And then obviously everyone was like, oh, that's going to be so bad because everybody will just play for themselves. And others were like, yeah, but there's no pressure anymore. So I think that's that can go both ways, right? Everyone knows that the whole EU scene, at least, is looking at you and trying to figure out what they want to do next year. And if you pop off completely on PGC, then you're looking really good. If you have a teammate who's just constantly putting themselves in the position to frag and puts you on the back lines, then you look really bad, that kind of stuff. So how do you feel was the dynamic in the team? Was it just really chill and having a good time, or was there some tensions too, because you kind of knew it was over?
I mean, there was definitely some tension too, but I think everyone, like, in the back of their head knew that like we kept saying this to each other, like for fun. Like, what was it? We said something like, yeah, guys, don't flame each other now. Like, we're done playing together after this, you know? Like, no one's allowed to flame. Like, we're stopping to play with each other. Yeah, it's like there's no reason to like get angry at each other and argue about the games, because like we're literally done playing after this tournament together. So like, keep it to yourself.
Whatever you're angry about, just keep it to yourself for another week, and then
literally, you don't have to play with this guy anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting situation. I'm happy that it sort of worked out. But yeah, could have. It's a really mixed bag. Now, what you talked about earlier is that you, for whatever team you end up on, you don't want to be that guy that has so many responsibilities, so many roles. I think when people look at you playing with heroic, I and a lot of people I talked to were sort of like, yeah, I mean, they already have an IGL. Is it maybe a little bit of a waste? Sort of what's going on there, but. Do you see yourself, if you join that roster, let's just stay hypothetical, do you see yourself calling for them? Or would you just be sort of given a little bit of input, being a fragger, that sort of thing?
I definitely would help with calling. I think, so for the people that are watching that don't know, like, I've been scrimming with them, and Corexi has been the guy IGLing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Heroic has gone through, like IGL changes a lot lately, so
every
they played
IGL
Paige,
possible, yeah.
Yeah, and then they had T-Bone, and now it's Corexi. And at first I was like, okay, Corexi's gonna call. He hasn't called before,
Mm-hmm.
and
he's Finnish. He doesn't really talk.
He's Finnish. He's young. He hasn't called a single tournament before either.
Yeah.
But like so far playing scrims with him, like he's doing a really good job. He really has like a brain for the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I've been really impressed with him actually. And I don't really get like easily impressed with people either.
Mm-hmm.
Especially not when like comes to like PUBG and like strategy and stuff. But yeah, he's impressed me, and yeah, back to your question, like I've thought about this. After Overpeekers, I was thinking like, do I have to IGL on the next team, or can I play a different role? And my ego has been telling me that like I should be IGLing. Like look at what I have done so far, look at what I'm capable of, and also I really think I know how to IGL with a team that plays Edge as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we didn't do very much because we did Pochinki-Pecado,
Yeah.
and we were really bad at it. We were really bad at like playing Edge, not at looting Pecado. So yeah, I really wanted sometimes to play more Edge control, but
mm-hmm.
we just couldn't figure it out, and
it's just a completely different game, right? It
really is.
It's much of it is like a different skill set where you have to be so much more self-sufficient. You have to take more ground, more decisions yourself.
Yeah,
you're not just sitting in the middle.
It's way more individual.
Yeah,
it's way more individual on all four players than having one guy calling the sense and calling the smart rotations, and yeah.
Is it? I think the Pochinki-Pecado kind of play style, if you actually play very center heavy, you can get away with much less IGLing and much less sort of strategy if you have 4 really strong players. You maybe take a crash or a crash every second game where you have to win a team fight, but you can play so much more simple PUBG than if you're trying to control your edge, forcing teams away, finding gaps, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think you can play simple PUBG from Pecado Pochinki. I just struggle to do it because there's a lot of the zones where you're just so close to the zone, you just want to have this and you want to have that, and there are more options available, and you're like, do we take this?
What do we
do?
Do
we leave it?
And
then it kind of becomes more complicated than simple.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But it's that sort of more still. It's not simple for you, but it's way simpler for your teammates still, right? Because they're like, what do I stay here or do I group? That's their job pretty much. And
that's true. Yeah, it is very simple. It's like, I'll play this compound.
Yeah.
I'll look over here.
Yeah.
So yeah, but when it comes to like the whole IGLing thing, I just decided to put my ego on the side and just if I don't end up IGLing, which is very likely that I don't, I will still help a lot. I'll just give suggestions, and I will like help the IGL come up with like not ideas during the game, but like help him if there's some zones he struggles on and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've put my ego aside, and I think I can do a really good job at being like just a more helpful role type of thing.
Could be good for you, right? As well, it's more pressure off your shoulders, more time to focus on your own game.
It's nice. For sure.
have you? We spoke about the heroic situation. Have you, if you want to talk about this, have you had other offers? Have you tried out much for other teams? Because we've seen you quite a bit with heroic now.
Yes, I've been scrimming with them, and what I can say is basically that I had a bunch of offers. I would say like 3 really good offers.
Mm-hmm.
But like stuff has changed, and it's not really an offer anymore. But yeah, I had a bunch of offers, but yeah, what else can I say really? Let me think. Yeah, let's just keep it at that. I had a bunch of offers.
I think the people that have a good idea of what's happening next year might have an idea of what that meant, but we'll just leave it at that for now.
Yeah,
it's a pretty complicated situation right at the moment when I think everyone is sort of assuming who's going to be partnered next year, but it's not really public just yet. And I don't think it's even behind closed doors official yet. So that influences the whole roster movement a lot, right? Right? Because
yeah, it does.
You'd love to be on a partner team, but if you're joining a roster that gets dropped instead of being partnered, then suddenly you're way less interested, right?
Yeah. And I guess the partner team will have invites to everything.
PGS.
I'm wondering if that means then that they will be invited to online tournaments too. If there is any.
I think everyone's sort of up in the air. I would expect, right? So what we know is the partner teams get invited to PGS. So we know for them, it should be fairly easy to make PGC. Kind of like it was easy to make PGC the years before this, where you got invited to every PCS. That sort of same system applies. But then it's only 2 of them. So it's not that hard to qualify, right? Like it was super hard to qualify to a PCS final when there was 8 invited teams, and then you have 2 EU West spots. Like it's absolutely insane to qualify for that final. Yeah. So I feel like it matters, but it doesn't matter as much as it used to, because it's only 2 of them that get invited to PGS. And I would assume some sort of invite, but then we're not even sure how important the regional tournaments are going to be, right? Like we don't even know how much they're going to matter. We don't even know what's happening to sort of regional partners. Like I would assume there's going to be some smaller regional partners that get invited to PCS closed qualifiers, stuff like that, right?
That would make sense.
And if you're at that stage, you're probably okay, because that means you have a really good chance of making PCS finals. If you're good enough, have a really good chance of making PGS that way. So I feel like in-game, it's going to be fairly okay, even if you're not one of the 2 partner teams. It's just the amount of support that you get from partner skins and all that kind of stuff. That's probably what makes the orgs offering way more attractive for a partner team.
Yeah. One thing though, that the partner team is probably FaZe Na'Vi maybe. I don't know if it would be TM.
I think everyone's expecting FaZe Na'Vi just because they're such big orgs.
Yeah.
And Twisted Minds, like the team deserves partner, the roster deserves partner, but it's the org getting partnered, so it's probably FaZe Na'Vi, I would guess.
And then I think one problem will be that if they do get invited to everything, you'll have the same situation that we had like last year, where it felt like you didn't get to play anything.
Yeah.
Because you didn't get to play like qualifiers or anything, so you were just playing scrims for like many months, and then you go straight into a tournament, and you're like, this is really different again.
Yeah.
So
and
that is
there's a potential for a really weird situation where, let's say, a partner team is invited to PGS. The qualifier to PGS would be PCS, let's say, the regional tournament. So they play PCS finals, but they're barely playing for anything because they're already invited for PGS, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of potential for really weird stuff going on there. And we just...
It's like, we're partnered and you loot our spots.
Yeah, exactly. We're griefing your tournament. We don't care. It's like, I mean, you might get 16k euros if you're third, but we make 100K off the skin sales, so we don't have to care about that. We can do whatever, you know. Like, so there's a lot of potential for weird stuff going on. So it's gonna be super interesting to actually find out and figure out what's gonna happen.
Yeah, it will be.
And I think there's a lot of players that are hoping the regional stuff will be on LAN. But I think it's probably going to be PGS and upwards, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, but I feel like hosting LANs, PUBG LANs with 64 players, for an EU tournament, for example, is just rough. It's just a rough investment.
Hoping we would get to go back to Berlin, to the Starladder, the good old days.
I mean, I'm hoping too. I'm in Germany, bro. I'd be so hyped. I'm hoping we get I mean, if we have 2 PGSs, I'm hoping, you know, there has to be one of them in the West somewhere. I feel like surely, because every PGC is probably going to be Korea because of the arena they're building and everything.
Which so the PGS is supposed to be done by next year, right? Or is it this year?
I think it's end of 2024 or something, but I guess that's sort of the long-term plan.
Yeah, I really hope we get some more like tournaments in Europe before that time, because I don't like traveling back and forth to South Korea.
Yeah,
I really don't.
Yeah, I get that 100%. I mean, it's also for the fans. It's like watching like 2 years of online PUBG, and then the first LANs are in like Dubai and in Korea and all that kind of stuff where you have to travel for ages. It's a bit rough.
Yeah,
would be super hype. I don't know what's gonna happen. I hope we get the info soon. It's also, from my POV, it's like if you're a freelancer, it's like you don't know if you have a job next year until mid-February or something, and it's just like I don't know what's gonna happen. Am I gonna get to cast something? Am I gonna get to observe something? Like I don't fucking know.
Yeah, it's really screwed.
It's rough. It's wild. All right, we have PDNC in the middle of the year. And I think that's going to be hype. I think that's going to be interesting. I don't know where it's going to be. But I thought it'd be interesting to ask you, who would be on Team Norway?
Oh, I've thought about this so many times before.
Yeah.
And it's so hard.
Yeah.
It would definitely be me and Aetsi.
Yeah, has to be.
And then picking 2 players from there would be really hard. Because some players are like very much like on and off in PUBG.
Mm-hmm.
At least the Norwegian players. Some of them just like don't play that much, or play like a little bit, then they're gone for some months, and then they play again. So the other 2 players, I don't know, man. Like I keep thinking like maybe Techers and someone else.
Mm-hmm.
I really am not sure though. Like I actually do not know the Norwegian players very well. So
yeah, it's also, I feel like it's kind of a little bit like the sort of like the Denmark situation or something, where you have some very obvious options, and then maybe the 4th player gets really, really hard, and then you don't even have that many great options. I mean, I think you don't even have that many great options when you pass like the super insane players. After that, it flattens out pretty quickly. I talked about this with Betulens as well. If you had like a Scandinavia roster or something, it's instantly insane. But then it's really hard to even just only pick 4 players.
Yeah.
But once you go to a country like Denmark or Norway, I think it gets really hard to pick the 4 players.
Yeah, it does. Good thing I won't have to think about it.
I still think if we just had a regional qualifier, just had 16 teams out of Europe, it's such a banger tournament. And then 4 of them go to PNC. Nice. Nobody complains. It's just perfect.
No Germany. No.
Hey man, it's my only hope, bro. Yeah, no, I think that was sick. But yeah, I understand also that it's like a lot of work because you have to pick out the players and all that kind of stuff.
I think Team Norway probably wouldn't qualify.
You think so?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we would, but there's a big chance we wouldn't as well.
I think there's a lot of countries like Norway where it's like it gets a little bit tricky to pick player 3 and 4. And then it's also, maybe you have 3 or 4 really good players, but there's a reason they're not playing on the same team, right? Because they don't really work with each other. They lack an IGL, or I don't know, they lack some quiet players, whatever. Like if you're I think there's a lot of strong countries that probably don't have a strong national team, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder, like, the teams that have been to PNC so far that has had a duo from another team, have they really done well? Because you had Finland with Corexi and Page, they got 5th. Before that, you had Samti and Yemti, they got like last place.
Yeah.
Like, who else was a duo from a team?
UK was completely mixed. Yeah, it was.
It's a Russian team. The first PNC were they mixed? Do you remember who it was?
I think it was Aduzi, Senya,
Uba,
maybe Bestalach. No, I don't think it was Bestalach, but Uba was there. Yeah. I don't know. I think it really depends too. I think last PNC was a pretty good example where there was a few teams that just hated themselves, each other so much that it didn't even matter who played on the team, just because of how the votes went and stuff.
Turkey, for example.
Yeah,
I heard some stories about Team Turkey hating each other.
Yeah. I mean, Germany had some issues. Turkey had some issues. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. As also, I feel like if you're looking at Team Finland on paper, for example, last year, they looked super cracked, right?
Yep.
They looked like they should win that tournament.
Yep.
And then UK for me was like they're either top 4 or they're bottom 4. Like could be either. Kind of like because you have like I don't know, you have T-Bone, IGLing, Heroic's always been sort of up and down, but yeah, you never know. And then you have Brazil, who just comes in with like 3 super young guys who don't care about anything and just frag the whole lobby. So like it's just a different tournament.
Yeah, it is really a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's also just a fun tournament. It's so short, right? It's
that's how you should treat it, at least. Like, you should not take it too serious if you're there. That's what UK did, and that's what worked for them.
Yeah, it's the same thing for Brazil too. They were just like so confident and having so much fun. They were just dominating until the last day. I asked you what you would pick for Team Norway. I want to ask you, if at all, you could build whatever your roster you wanted to right now to dominate 2023. Who'd you pick? No restrictions.
Does this mean I can pick Russian players too?
Yeah, you can pick anyone.
Let's pretend that they speak English.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, I'll let that one.
I would probably... Alright, maybe I shouldn't put too much thoughts about, oh, this guy's gonna IGL, or this guy gonna do this, or this guy gonna do that.
Just pick... I mean... You can put a bit of thought into it if you want. You don't have to pick just the 3 most cracked fraggers and yourself or something. You know, you can think about
it. There's multiple ways to think about it though. Like, should I pick mechanically good players, or should I pick like people who I like trust to do good in like tournaments, who have like experience?
Well, there's no rules. All you have to do is pick the team that would dominate 2023. Whatever you think will do that.
Corexi. Gonna go on a wild one here as well and say Nixie. And
that's not good for his ego.
Don't get
ego.
No, I was just about to say, like, don't get any ego here, Nixie. And do I say Beamy? I think Beamy, yeah. Right. Yeah, I think Beamy.
Interesting. I think
that would be like me, the boomer, with these young guys.
Yeah. You're just trying to manage them around. You're like, go kill this guy. Go kill that guy. Yeah, that's nice.
No, Nixia is really good mechanically, and so is Corexi. I think Corexi brings a whole lot more than Nixie does to a team. And Beamy is also really good at Killfeed tracking, and he's really good mechanically as well.
Those are the things that people just don't know unless they've played on a team with them, I feel like. I heard the same thing at PNC. They were talking like Miracle was like amazed by how Fex Killfeed tracked everything. And it's something you would never think. Like, Fex is the guy that runs at people and shoots them in the face, you know, and he's fairly quiet too, I feel like. So you're not thinking that guy is really aware of what's going on or like super on the kill feed, but
you think he's just running around shooting people. but he actually
I
has
mean,
like the whole overview.
yeah, exactly. That's you kind of think it's Gustav saying fakes go kill, but it really isn't, and you just have
Yeah.
no idea about that until someone tells you or you play with them.
No, like
Eh,
the info tracker in PUBG, I like to call it info tracking over
mhm.
Killfeed tracking. It's absolutely like insane
Yeah,
role to have. Like if you're someone that's good at that, that sets the IGL and the rest of your team up like so much
yeah.
more than anything else does.
It's a tricky one as well because it's such a big advantage in online tournaments to have someone just take that off your shoulders. But you want someone that can do that online, right? Like it's probably a trade-off you've had for a long time where you had to sort of figure out what you want to do with that, right?
I've always thought that you know how in EU we do like the kill feed tracking with the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought like you just stop doing it and just focus fully on offline, because like if you kill feed track with a coach, it's like it's insane how what you can do with it.
Yeah.
But when you actually come to a LAN, it is very different, and it's not like you suck because you have been using your coach online, but you would still be a lot better at LAN if you just use the same guy.
Yeah.
To do the kill feed tracking.
Yeah.
So that's something I really would want to do this year, is to not use someone tracker online.
Yeah.
It is actually absurd that we're allowed to do it, but
it's a really weird gray area, right?
yeah.
Because it's like the argument behind it is, yeah, we can't enforce it, so we'll allow it. And you hear that and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. And then you think about, okay, can you enforce that people don't cheat? No. Are you gonna allow that? Like the logic doesn't really make sense if you think about it.
Yeah.
And then I think it's very strange that it's different between regions. There should be a PUBG decision. This is allowed or this is not allowed, and that's it, right? And then it's kind of done. So that's, I think both kind of make sense to me, allowing it or not allowing it. But the fact that it's different between regions and it's different between LAN and online is really strange to me.
Yeah, it is really weird.
Like, I wouldn't even mind if coaches on LAN were behind the players and could talk to them. They don't have to, they're not going to watch a game feed. They're not going to be able to kill feed track everything, whatever. But just like coach your team in game, I think is something that would be really interesting. Especially, let's say you die after 15 minutes, right? You die circle 3, whatever. Have your coach there talk to you, prep you for the next game, sort of talk about what happened would be super interesting.
Then they would actually have an impact in this game. Because right now, like, coaches aren't very valuable in PUBG.
That's literally the next question on my list. Is like, what do you think? I feel like it probably really depends on the team. But overall, with how much impact you have in game, I mean, in game you're not super valuable. I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had 17 as a coach, and I've had Fuss as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good at completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
17 was more of really good at making sure that the conversations or arguments, whatever you want to call them, like after games, weren't arguments.
Mm-hmm.
That we actually got some productive talk.
Mm-hmm.
So like he's more of like a mental type coach, I would say.
Yeah.
While Fuss, when he joined, we told him we were looking for less of that stuff that we had with 17. We were looking
Mm-hmm.
for more like back for each player individually. Focus on like spectate them, tell me what you see that you think is wrong, point it out so we can improve individually. We were lacking that when we played with Tanner. So Fuss brought that to the team, which was really good. And I think coaches can actually have pretty good impact in PUBG with that type of stuff. You just really need a coach that really wants to coach, and there is not many people that want to coach. Like Fuss didn't want to coach.
It's really hard at the top level where you have 4 really good players. They need someone really good to coach them, right? Like it's hard to find a coach that isn't good enough to play, but is still at a level where he can coach a top player. That's a very small amount of people, I feel like.
Yeah, it is.
And then it's also not very viable as a career for most people and stuff, because PUBG isn't that massive in Europe and these kind of regions. So it's such a small amount of people that really fits the job description. And then it has to work with the team as well. You know, the chemistry has to work out, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
No,
just
there's a lot more that could be done for coaches to be valuable to the game. Like you said, like having the coaches on stage, being able to talk to your team and stuff.
Yeah.
That would be huge. Because you would literally, like, you could even, like, everyone hates dying in PUBG, because when you die early in PUBG, you're just sitting there looking at your screen.
Yeah.
Especially if you're on LAN, you'll be waiting. There's so much, like, people don't know how much you're sitting in your chair doing nothing.
Yeah. It's terrible, honestly.
And the rules they have at these events, like, it's crazy. Like, you just sit there on your ass and you're just looking at the screen for like hours without doing anything.
Yeah.
And then you die first and you have to look, and you're not even allowed to play like EDM while you're dead or anything.
Yeah.
And
it's like, especially if you're like, let's say you're hot dropping, right? You die, you wait 40 minutes minimum or something. You can't play the game in the meanwhile. You can't really do anything. And then you hot drop again. And even if you win the hot drop, maybe you get flushed and you sit there for another 30 minutes or something. It's just, it's rough.
I really, like, you don't really get warmed up in this game. That's the problem. Unless you play good your first game.
Yeah.
Like, you make it into like top 5 with some kills.
Yeah.
And then the next game, maybe again, like top 5 with some kills. That's how you stay warmed up on LAN.
Momentum is so big because of that as well, right?
Yeah, it's huge. Like, I feel that personally as a thing, that if you play bad like the first few games, then it's really hard to get like into the game again.
Yeah. I guess that's where you can use sort of the mental coach side of things too. Sort of try and get some patterns that will help you with that and kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I know that, for example, Acend have a performance coach, which is something like a mental coach and that kind of stuff. I think has a lot of potential in a game like PUBG, because it's, I guess every game has its sort of difficulties, but what you just talked about, I feel like, is one of the major ones in PUBG. And then also the fact that sometimes you just get clapped, and you maybe didn't even do a bad play or something. You just got unlucky, or you have 2 bad games because circles were terrible, and then you get unlucky in the third one, and you kind of have to keep bouncing back from that. It's just so hard when things kind of feel out of your control. So I feel like it's one of the hardest games mentally in some sense.
Yeah, it's really hard to reset between bad games like that, especially if you have multiple. You can just die out of your car or something stupid. Like, sometimes you'll, like you've seen before on stream, some guy will knock you from. What's the guy who knocked Gustav from like 1,000 meters?
Yeah.
Like that's just so unlucky.
Yeah.
Like that happens.
I remember vividly. I picked Mexi for fantasy in like a PCS or something, and he gets shot out of every single car he gets in. I don't know
so
why.
Funny.
I don't know how. But if one of you gets shot out of the car, it was literally always Mexi.
It's always him.
I don't understand. He
has a big head.
He doesn't even do anything. He doesn't even like drive by in dumb spots or drive badly or something. He's like the second car in line.
Oh, he's always so unlucky with that stuff.
Yeah.
Always get shot out of the car.
I have a clip from PNC where we were sitting in the audience as well, and he got popped out of a car as well, and I just hear Tekkas next to me going, "Of course, it's fucking Mexi again." It's fucking nice.
Yeah, he was really unlucky at that. Like, he just has a big head or something. I don't know.
Can't do anything about it. One of the fan questions was, what do you do off stream to work on yourself? I know some of that stuff, but I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that you probably do as a player to work on yourself.
Well, I would say the main reason I don't stream as much as I do anymore is because I don't know why, but it's become very fatiguing to stream.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do like a 3-hour stream before scrims, I already feel really mentally drained before scrims, which is something I don't quite understand why. I've tried different approaches, like not like talk too much at the chat, not like bother too much, and it still just makes me like really fatigued. I don't know why. I cannot figure it out completely. So that is one of the things I'm doing to try and play better is to stream less.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks. Because I want to stream a lot, but
yeah, it's hard. I have the same thing. I don't know. It helps to turn the camera off, but it doesn't. It's still exhausting. Yeah, it's rough.
But like things I do to improve as a player off stream is like I learned this from one of our mental coaches in Liquid. Like I use sticky notes a lot, and I have a notebook as well. So if I like notice that I'm doing something wrong, like an example from now when I've been screaming with heroic is that since I'm not IGLing, right? I'm used to being the IGL, running around, sometimes dumping my car, looking for opportunities, and then sending the gang in, you know? Now, when I'm not the IGL, I need to stay on my car more.
Yeah.
That's something I noticed. A lot of the games, like, Corexy would want to do something, and I was like, I'm not on my car. Like, if I was on my car, then this would have happened faster.
Right now.
Yeah, so that's like something I do to improve. I write sticky notes a lot. So I just hang them on my second monitor. Then I look at them like before I play as reminders, basically. Other than that, like it's just lifestyle, you know, like trying to get good amount of sleep is important. I really like to go to the gym, especially on game days. I don't know, it's just like thing I do on game days. I go to the gym a few hours before, and while I'm there, I lift weights, but I also kind of think a lot about PUBG while I'm in there. I think about possible scenarios in today's lobby, like, oh, we have DA in this lobby again. They loot right next to Pecado. We gotta watch out, you know, for this and that. You kind of remind yourself of those type of things.
That's interesting.
So it's like a mental prep.
Yeah.
For me,
because you're doing something that doesn't keep you busy mentally. It's just physical, so you have time to sort of go through those scenarios and stuff. Yeah, it's nice.
Like my head is like in PUBG while I'm doing it.
Yeah,
which is really nice. I will think of something that, oh shit, I need to remind my teammates about this today before that goes wrong, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there isn't much more that I do to improve. Like I spend time in custom games, I guess, and you could say that is a big thing in this game. Map knowledge, going in custom games, looking at different dips and rocks and angles, and learning vert nades for different scenarios. Lineups is something I tried a bit, but it is very situational. I have not been able to use one lineup that I made, so vert nades though seem to be really good on Miramar. There's a lot of good vert nades to learn.
Okay. So you look at the angle you have to throw and kind of where from, or what exactly do you do to prepare it?
Like you play around buildings, you go like step outside the building, throw your nade right up in the air.
Yeah.
And you see if like does this nade land perfectly on the other side of the building, or is it too short? You know.
And you learn the timing, like how long do I have to cook it? How tall, like how steep?
Well, usually vert nades you don't even need to cook, but 1 second cook sometimes can be good as well.
Yeah. Depends on how the flight angle is, right? If it's makes sense.
It's just map knowledge, and then in custom games it's a big thing. It should be available to everyone actually that competes.
Yeah,
it's huge to just be able to sit in the map and do whatever you want.
I talked to Keanu the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, I just can't do that. I'm not a PUBG partner. I don't have the same rights. I just can't hop into a sandbox game and do what I want to do for prep. It's just rough."
Yeah, it is really rough.
Yeah. Interesting.
There is like the old school fashioned way of doing it, going into your replay, flying around.
Yeah.
Which is not quite as fun, but
there's things you can do there for sure.
Yeah.
It's one thing I was always thinking about too, is not having replays on event server. It's so rough.
Yeah, it is really weird.
It really should be a thing. I understand that it's the event server where you play all the tournaments, you play scrims. It's stripped of some functionalities so that it runs better and everything. But for exactly that server, replays are the most important out of any server.
We got the observer file from the last PCS. That was crazy.
True.
First time ever we get the observer file.
That's pretty sick, actually.
Any team's PoE, whatever they do in every game.
Yeah.
It was so much fun, like just sitting there and analyzing. Of course, I had to look at NLT first. Like, I noticed one thing like that they do really well, looking at the observer files, is that a lot of the players, I felt like in those games at least, they were always doing something important. They were always looking, taking info, and not just being like, oh well, I'm in this compound now by myself. I'm just gonna loot all these 3 buildings, you know.
Yeah.
So I need my flash hider, or I need 2 more smokes. They were very often just constantly looking around, info all the time.
It's what
which is very basic PUBG, but a lot of people don't do it.
It's what I told my players as well. Is like, you should constantly think about how you can be useful to the team. It's just, it doesn't have to be something super crazy or interesting, but if you're not looking around, you're not scouting, you're not taking space, maybe you should be Killfeed tracking. Maybe you should be asking your IGL what the next plan is. Maybe you should be thinking what happens if the circle goes south, all that kind of stuff. There's so much value you can have. And it's so easy to be, like you said, like, oh, I still don't have attack stock. I'm just going to loot this compound, you know?
Yep.
But it's so, I think there's so much value you can have. And if you have 4 players like that are just constantly on the move, on the lookout, it's so big.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
I think it's pretty much what makes NLT so good. It's that they have 4 really smart players that really know everything about the game and how to play it.
Yeah, I think so too.
And no like super static roles, just 4 players that are really smart and really flexible and just know what they're doing. All right. That was a pretty good talk already. This is the time where you get to ask me some questions.
Yeah,
and I'm a little bit scared, I won't lie.
Let me open my notepad.
No sticky notes for me.
So, I guess the question or 2 questions or whatever that I have for you was, what is gonna be different, like in Acend now that you're coaching them? Do you have any plans or goal in mind of how you're gonna like approach this whole situation?
That's a really good question. Because obviously I wasn't there before. So what's going to be different is a hard question. I think the main thing, the number one main thing I can help them on is comms. I think that's one thing that they're really struggling with. And then I feel like also it just really helps to have like an extra perspective sometimes and be like, because Acend I feel like it's a very polarizing team. I just said that like NLT has like the 4 same players kind of, where they're all like really self-sufficient, really smart. Acend has like the 2 veterans.
Opposite?
Huh?
Does polarizing mean like opposite of each other?
Like different, I guess, is a simple word for it. It's like Acend has like Chris and Brex, which are like the veterans with like insane amounts of experience, been to tons of LANs. And then there's the 2 young cracked players, which is Kiliakai and Mika, who are like super good at 1v1s, super strong individual, but not as strong on the experience and mental side of things. So you kind of have to, I think I'm sort of in the middle, and I'm like trying to help them sort of gel together a little bit more. That's probably my main goal, and to help them understand what the other part needs and what the other part wants and why this is a problem in both directions. Is probably like my number 1 priority.
Yeah.
Because in game, I don't have to tell these guys anything. It's really not that much about what they do in game. It's about how they talk to each other and how they work with each other and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That's, I guess, I didn't know Killfeed. How young are they?
They're not that young.
Okay.
I think they're like,
you said they were young.
20. Yeah, I know, but it's like, it's just that stereotype of the young cracked guy, you know, who struggles a little bit with comms and that kind of stuff. It really fits them both, I think. And it's like,
that's like Nixia.
Yeah, and exactly.
And I think Nixia is a perfect example of how an upcoming cracked player can get somewhere. Like, he's just on Woo now, but I mean, he has a good future if he playing the game and improves. And I think the reason why is because he doesn't have like an ego towards his teammates. I mean, I can't say this for sure, but it doesn't feel like it. Like I think
that is the number one thing is like the work ethic. Because if you're willing to work on yourself and you have the talent, you'll get somewhere. It's just, I feel like there is people with the talent that struggle to work on themselves because they're like, yeah, well, but I get the most kills, I get the most damage. Why should I be listening to that guy? You know?
And they're usually all in the same boat. They're always playing with someone who has experience.
Yeah.
So that's why you listen to him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Even if sometimes you don't agree, take it in at least, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Think about it at least. Because there's usually something you can take away from it. It's an interesting discussion I had the other day as well. It's like, if you're looking to build a team right now, there is a lot of those veterans around that have tons and tons of experience. And they're maybe not the most cracked individuals, but how high is the value of having that experience on your team? It's a really hard question. Like, do you want the cracked young guy, or do you want the experienced guy that just loses more 1v1s than the young crack guy? It's a pretty hard question, I think.
Yeah. I guess you pick the guy who whatever fits your team. I guess. I think every team needs at least 1 or 2 crack guys, though. Yeah. But they also need 1 or 2 guys with experience. Yeah. So.
you need a little bit of everything. You need like, hopefully most teams kind of need a quiet guy, but then you also need loud guys. You need like guys that keep the mood up a little bit. You need guys that like you need a little bit of everything. It's so hard.
I also prepared 10 rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Don't get too excited. It's not that fun.
I think it's gonna be fun. It's fun to be on the other side of things.
Okay. So you have to answer quick.
Yeah. No thinking.
Okay. Beryl or M4?
M4.
IGLing or Ming Ming?
IGLing.
Pochinki or Pecado?
Pecado.
Coach or caster?
Caster.
Okay, the next one is pretty good. Brexco or It's Chris?
That's like impossible. Jesus. It's Chris.
Okay. Blondes or brunettes?
Blonde.
Milk or no milk?
No milk.
Predictable circles or unpredictable circles?
Predictable.
Avankur or Toby?
They do 2 different jobs. It's not fair.
They're both Danish.
Avenger. It's hard because like they do 2 different jobs, and I've talked to Martin just way more than I ever talked to Toby and stuff. So I'm not sure if I'm meant to answer that as like who's the better PUBG talent or who's the guy I
it's
have
all
more
for
chemistry
everyone
with.
Can interpret it their own way.
Yeah.
That's why it's a good question.
That's why it's a good question. The ones that are impossible to answer are the good ones.
Okay, the last very important question. Hairy or shaved?
I'm pretty clean shaven right now. Shaved.
I don't know why I put that in there.
I don't know why you put that in, bro. There's so many different ways of interpreting that.
I guess that was it.
Nice. I think that was pretty fun. The Brex and Itzkris one as well. It's just like impossible. Because like
it's kind of like a I don't know how do you say, like I'm bullying you, I guess.
Yeah. It's kind of cool though. That's why I think the honest question thing is fun, because people can ask me really uncomfortable questions, and I don't know why, but I think that's fun. I really like being honest about things, and it's sometimes hard if you're like a caster and everything. You're always expected to be like positive and nice and everything, so it's sometimes hard to be honest. So I thought that would be really fun. Yeah.
At least if you're honest, and someone gets upset at you, all you can do is say, "I'm sorry."
Yeah, I'm sorry, bro. It's just what I think. Yeah. I think the Brexco Iskris one is kind of interesting because Brexco I think he's a really, really, really good IGL. And I think he's probably underrated on like the international scene because it's been so long since he's played in an international team. But Iskris is like the captain. He's like the guy is like signs up for scrims, motivates people, tells people to go play ranked, all that kind of stuff. Brings up the mood, shouts at people when they're like kind of down, that kind of stuff.
That's good, yeah.
So it's really hard to compare the two.
I mean, I think I said this once. I don't know if I said it to Brexco or wherever it was, but I can remember saying at least that every time he took a break from PUBG and he came back, and he's had a few different rosters, but every single time he's had a roster, they've always qualified to any tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows that he's a good IGL.
Yeah. I think the last stretch they had until PCS7 was kind of the worst they had ever. It's like they had a few months where they didn't really make a lot of finals. And then they still got really close because they performed well in PCS7. Like they got close to actually making PGC. So like that was kind of the comeback moment, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that's where they kind of realized, okay, like we can do this. We're pretty close. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see what happens next year or this year.
Yeah.
Cool. I think it's my time for rapid fire. There's one of the questions in there is literally one that you asked me too.
Really?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
It's a pretty obvious one.
It's the barrel M4. It must be.
It's actually the barrel M4. I asked the first what the best gun in the game is, but I think barrel M4 is the simpler question.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one to start too, because it's kind of, I like to start easy and then get harder.
The best gun or barrel M4?
Barrel M4.
Barrel.
McDonald's or KFC?
McDonald's.
Pineapple on pizza?
Yes.
Which map would you add to comp?
DDoS 2. No, never mind. I would add Tego.
All right. Most underrated player right now?
The most underrated player. Ooh. I'm not gonna say Melman because that's what Batulian said.
Yeah.
An underrated player. Well, yeah, I actually know. It's very biased, but I have to say T-Bone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Like I have never played with T-Bone, and when I play with him, like I understood why he's really valuable to that team.
If you had to go pro in another game, which one?
I would go pro in. I'm just gonna say it because I've been playing WoW lately, so I'm gonna say pro in World of Warcraft. That would actually be fun.
That'd be wicked. I was expecting a shooter, but yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking about CS, of course, instantly. Yeah. But WoW is like totally different pro game from any other game because it's like you're like so many people together and
yeah. It's the races that are kind of like the pro scene, right?
The races to world first, where you're like 30 plus people working on being the first people to kill a boss.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
It's completely different. I can see that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Who's the best teammate you've ever had?
It's for sure Mexi.
What's your biggest flaw?
My ego. And I can tunnel. I think I can tunnel quite a bit on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, my ego and tunneling.
What's your biggest quality?
I think just like in general, maybe comms. Just maybe not the greatest at comms, but I think I'm good at like clarifying stuff, making sure people know what the plan is, small details in the comms. That's something I used to focus on a lot was, and what Foss helped me focus on a lot was the planning of something.
Mm-hmm.
Something as simple as like, yeah, we're gonna crash this compound. That's what people say. And then there's 4 houses, so which one do you crash? Like, side of the house do you crash? Do you run in? Do you play slow after? Like,
just specifying that, planning it out, so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, like that thing of like, are you playing fast or are you playing slow? That is super important in PUBG. It just sets the mood of the whole team. Like, does everyone know what are we doing? Because if you have 3 guys crashing the same house, I guarantee you one of them is gonna vault in the window, one is gonna sit outside the house and pop his first aid, and the other guy's, I don't know what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
Like,
Smoking, someone's busy like sticking a res. There's so many different things you can end up doing, yeah.
everyone will have different ideas.
Yeah.
So like those play slow or fast can really like put you more on the same page.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It doesn't have to be like planning doesn't have to be complicated, you know? You don't have to say crashing this house, running in the back door, straight into the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. But just like, yeah, we'll chill, or we have to get in bottom floor instantly. Just that's enough information, right? That's where everyone knows what they have to do. Last one is it's not a rapid fire question really. It's if you have to think back about all your time in Team Liquid and Overpeekers, what would you say was the best roster in that time? What do you think was sort of the strongest team that you were ever in?
Mexi, Clib, Evie, and me.
Yeah?
I think that was the strongest team. Yeah, I think so.
That came quicker than I thought it would be. That's nice.
You can argue that with Samty Yemty were better, we had better results and stuff. But there wasn't too many other good teams back then. I feel like there wasn't as much competition.
Yeah.
So we were always like second place Andy behind FaZe. But
that must have been so frustrating, by the way. You guys have had very little wins. You were always good, but very little first places.
It's really annoying.
It must be terrible.
Yeah, it is really annoying to just get like second, third, fourth all the time, you know, and being so close. And then the tournaments we have won are like we did win a star ladder back in the day. We won a kickoff cup and like PSL.
Yeah.
But that is also because like we always play good when it didn't matter that much. And we showed, by the way, at the last PGC, like we started the tournament off really hot. We had some really good games, like some really games that impressed me a lot. Like we handled like 2 teams at the same time.
The first day was like insane.
Yeah, and I was like
so much confidence. Everything worked. Everyone was like on point.
But I was super aware still that when you get to the actual final and there's stuff on the line, that's when it is just completely different dynamic and people shut down so much more.
That's rough.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Thank you. It's been fantastic. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for having a chat.
Yeah, it was fun.
And I can't wait to see what happens in 2023.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
All right. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Jeemzz. Thank you so much. And just like that, we're done with episode number 2. I think it was a fantastic episode. If you liked it, make sure to leave a like, leave a comment about what you want to see on further episodes, what guests you want to see, all that kind of stuff. If you're on YouTube, obviously subscribing helps. If you're on Spotify and that stuff, you can leave a review, I think. Not super familiar with the whole podcasting stuff yet. There will be a link to my socials and my Discord in the description. So if you have any sort of input towards the podcast, you can always join my Discord. There's a podcast channel in that Discord where people can leave their suggestions. And then finally, if you want to support, liking and subscribing and all that stuff is more than enough. If you want to go a little bit further and help me fund this kind of stuff, then you can use my creator code. Or you could, if you're really crazy, you can check out my Patreon. All those links, again, are going to be in the same link tree in the description. And again, thanks for watching. That's more than enough. And I'll see you guys in the next episode.